This town ain't big enough for the both of us. On the contrary, this town has recently experienced a significant population increase and spike in urban development. In fact, there's been enough expansion for this town to be considered a metropolitan statistical area, and a pretty sizable one at that. Well, it doesn't feel that big. Well, partner, that's because of something called Suburban Sprawl. What in tarnation? You see, this town doesn't seem that big because we are currently in an area of low-density development that's a good distance away from the city center. As a result, it feels as if we're not in the city, but technically, we're just in a suburb. It's all widely spread houses, lawns, the occasional strip mall, and places to park your horse, which is unfortunately very needed in places like these because everyone rides their horses here. You need one to get to your job, and also the nearest hospital, school, art center, food market, etc. Tell me about it. You know the price for hay nowadays? I really wish I had the option to take the trolley, ride my velocipede, or even just walk to, say, the movie theater, but that's completely unrealistic with the way this neighborhood is set up. If only there could be more development in my neighborhood that increases density and walkability. Hold on there, partner, that's currently unattainable because of exclusionary zoning. Exclusionary zoning sounds scary. I thought that zoning laws are a needed component within civilization that makes it so factories and chemical dumps don't spring up next door to my house. Zoning laws are important, but you see, there's a thing called single-family zoning that's an outdated planning restriction that only allows ridiculously spaced out single-family homes to be built within certain residential zones. Roughly 75% of land dedicated to housing within US cities is zoned in this way. It's also born out of racism, as it was a segregation tool, an underhanded tactic designed to block minorities from moving into white-populated neighborhoods by disallowing affordable homes through requirements such as minimum lot sizes, all to essentially control the supply and cost of these homes. This concept is by all accounts ancient and crippling by modern zoning and city planning standards. Not to mention, suburban living is horrible for the environment. Dang flab it, Miley, not the environment. Everything about these neighborhoods is just incredibly inefficient and needlessly resource reliant. These kind of developments require a ridiculous amount of infrastructure and maintenance that's of course not cheap, but also requires massive land consumption and deals significant blows to the given area's biodiversity. Also, since everything is so spaced out and so many people rely on their horses to get anywhere, there's increased traffic and congestion, which greatly contributes to emissions. Not to mention, large single-family homes themselves waste a lot of energy, and it's also dangerous as well. The more people who ride horses, the more horse crashes there are. Plus, the sheer amount of concrete and pavement with poor drainage systems contributes to flooding. With all that being said, 57 companies cause 80% of CO2 emissions. Suburban sprawl is definitely a problem that we should address, but someone wanting to live in a house with a backyard that's far away from the city center isn't unreasonable, and I don't see why that can't be obtainable alongside goals to increase density and diversify housing within cities. So ultimately, what you're saying is that getting rid of a few zoning laws will improve the environment and fix the housing crisis? No. I don't really want to play cowboy with you anymore. I bet that there's at least 5 greedy multi-property owning landlords listening in on this conversation, frothing at the mouth over the prospect of gaining more units by developing gigantic expensive complexes that barely comply with insufficient rent control laws. Also, when you add all of the components such as stuff like gentrification, this is a very complex and nuanced conversation that doesn't have one clear and simple solution. The working class is being strangled right now by more forces than just low housing supply, and giving wealthy developers less regulations isn't going to magically fix things for poor people in urban areas. What will help the housing crisis is increased density and better public transportation and walkability within city suburbs, as well as housing abundance, which single-family zoning does get in the way of, but those changes need to be paired with public housing initiatives, housing subsidies, strengthening tenants' rights and rent control laws, and pushing to decommodify housing as a whole. Without those kinds of regulations and programs, housing profiteers are going to continue to gleefully exploit tenants, first-time homebuyers, and low-income homeowners. Are we going to shoot each other at some point? Because this conversation is making me very depressed. Yeah, I got carried away. I'm sorry about that. We could just kiss each other instead. Yeehaw!